Hello, everyone, and welcome to Fantasycraft The Last City, Part 9. I'm your GM for this evening, Austin Ramsey. My pronouns are he, him, and you can find me on Twitter at NotAnIn. As always, this stream is presented by You Don't Meet in an Inn, an actual play podcast about exploring obscure tabletop role-playing games with a diverse, rotating cast. If you'd like to find other work by myself, you can do so at austin-ramsey.itch.io. This evening, I am joined by Christine.
Hi, I'm Christine. My pronouns are she, or they, and I'm playing Dorothy, the unborn mage.
Thank you. Also with us is, of course, Hadrian.
That's me. My name's Hadrian, and I will be playing Viper, the martial artist.
Thank you. And last but never least, Sasha.
Hi, I'm Sasha. My pronouns are NNs, and I will be playing Madame V, the cool tree opera singer.
Thank you. All right. So, last we left our heroes, y'all had just beat the snot out of decency and helped Sergeant Mantha take her and her goons into custody. So, what do you all want to do now?
Viper doesn't think that far ahead.
I guess we're just sort of standing in the warehouse, like, what do we do?
You are invited to go to the keep with Sergeant Mantha to see this through. If you want, you can participate in Decency's interrogation or the interrogation of her associates.
I do believe I'm going to hit them up for some medical care.
Not a bad idea.
We
I
need
will
to
see, or at least hear, the explanation for why the thing happened that happened.
and I need to negotiate our payment.
That's true.
All right. So, the three of you join Sergeant Mantha and her squad, directing Decency's goons back to the keep. I think they are all just chained together in one long line. There's no wagon that's been brought to bring them to the keep. I think that they are all manacled by their hands, and those manacles have like a chain running through them, so that there's probably like a dozen of Decency's goons plus the leader herself. There was also just like a ton of bodies in the warehouse by the time everything was finished. There was like a handful of city guard who had been killed, along with a bunch of these ruffians who were much less trained, armored, and armed than the city guard. Not to mention those whom you impaled on Gentleman Moose or did other such violent acts upon.
That doesn't sound like us.
No, that's not us.
It was the thing to do at the time.
Expediency.
No, I mean, they were doing it to us, we were doing it to them. It was the whole thing.
It was in vogue.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what all the cool kids are doing. All right. So you move through the West Docks down to the keep, and there's still a bit of a thinness to the guards' presence in this side of the city. Most of them are probably still on the other side of the river, keeping things in check after the riots, which probably still going on in places. It continues to smolder along with that section of the city, literally smoldering. And once you reach the keep, the sergeant says, "All right, I'm gonna get these folks processed. You can join me in talking to them, or if you want to go up and see the vice commander, he should be in his office."
Yeah, do you folks have any sort of like infirmary? I say and hold up an arm that has like 4 hatchet wounds in it.
There's an axe still in one.
Ouch, that looks pretty bad. Yeah, just through there you can get some medical assistance from our staff.
I think I'm gonna do that.
All right. Dorothy, or well, Christine, since you are playing our mage, you're the expert on the topic of magic. How
Okay.
common is it?
How common is magic?
Yeah, like, would the infirmary of the Coast Guard be like a bunch of physicers, or would there be a mage who practices healing in here, or perhaps a clergy member of one of the gods would see to their wounds?
Well, remember that magic has a possibility, like it has the potential of tainting a person, and that, that if you don't do magic good enough, you could be like possessed and taken over. So, were there to be magical healers, they would have to be very selfless.
All right. In that case, I think that the guard probably have a magical healer on staff, but they're only used when like someone is dying. So you're walking wounded, Viper. You're not
I'm
getting
in bad
that
shape, but I'm far from dying. So
anymore after that refresh action that you took in the
Yeah.
middle of the fight.
yeah.
Okay. So, let's see. Let's get a healing roll to see how well each of you are treated. Wait, does anyone else need a healing roll done upon them?
I do, but it's a mend roll, so I don't think that they would cater to me in the pharmacy.
Yeah, probably not.
I'm at 18 out of 36 vitality. I don't think so.
I mean, you can,
Vitality refresh.
Vitality does refresh over time, but it can still be healed with a mend check if you want one.
But take one.
You're just giving them out everywhere.
Yeah.
So it'll be a bonding experience, like a day spa,
Yeah.
except where they put duct tape on you to hold you together.
Just like a day spa, actually.
Okay, so unfortunately, V, the doctor looks you over and says, I'm sorry, but there's not a whole lot I can do here other than recommend that you get some rest. You're in a lot better shape than your friend is in.
Sure.
Because the doctor did not make the DC for the men check.
I don't like that. I prefer my doctors to.
Yeah, no, that sounds
Roll
like most
good.
doctors I've talked to.
Oh.
Oh, you have severe depression? Have you considered eating a handful of cashews a day? I've heard that does wonders. Anyway, continue.
Viper, you, however, get healed for 8, and that has to be split evenly between subdual, vitality, and wound. So I don't know if you have any subdual damage on you.
I actually don't.
Yeah, okay. So then you heal 4 vitality and 4 wounds.
Hey, feeling better already.
Okay, so that's your men check for the day. All right. So, what do y'all want to do now?
I want to know why Decency sent Sparked to our door, to our fucking thing.
I would like to know why they killed our friend.
Why this?
That'd be cool. That'd be cool. You know.
Yeah, I'm gonna go sit in on that conversation.
Okay. So you go to the interrogation room for that is in the keep, and well, it's not really an interrogation room. You saw the space that the dean was kept in previously in the keep. As I said before, this isn't a prison. It's a place that has jail cells. People are criminals, when found guilty, are fined or given some form of corporal or capital punishment if the crime is severe enough. Decency's probably looking at like something pretty bad for her punishment. So yeah, she's in a cell that is too small for her, being a root walker. Just like crammed right in there, hunched over. I think she's probably sitting on the ground with like her knees up around her like chin, insofar as she has. If she had more of a differentiation between head and neck, where her chin would be. Because she's not, as a reminder, her appearance is far more tree-like than V and Viper. And so as you're heading into the room where these jail cells are, Sergeant Mantha is at the desk with that duty officer that you were displeased with previously, V.
I'm gonna make sure to not make eye contact with that dude.
And the sergeant, she says, she looks at the three of you and she says, if you're looking to get answers out of her, she's demanding an advocate before she's willing to say anything. Now, I'm not allowed to do anything about that. I mean, question her further, but I'm also a member of the Coast Guard. I think I might need to go and find that advocate, if you understand.
I'm picking up what you are putting down, yes.
She nods. And she says, come on, Danny, let's go. And the desk guard, like, looks between the two of you and, like, very over dramatically drops the key ring on his way out. just happens to forget it as it falls out of his, like, pocket.
Well, he's good at
To
that.
be subtle. Yeah.
Like, no one else is in here. As has been established, the guard are spread all over the city, and this is like the only guy in this room. Actually, you know what? There are other people in here, but they are like the beat up goons of decency in a separate cell. Those who didn't need to go to the infirmary. And
All 30 of them.
no, there is only a dozen that left that place alive.
Oh, okay.
And then I think there's also the like 6 grad student security guards in a cell further down the hall.
Still here.
I mean, it's been like one
I guess
day.
it's only been a day. Yeah,
Yeah, things have moved
it's
fast.
an eventful day.
Yeah.
I'll go take those keys. This is probably how I left this place when I had to stay here earlier. Come to think of it, this place is kind of atrocious as far as security goes. Yeah, let's go talk to Decency.
Okay. So, like I said, she's crammed into one of these cells, knees up around her mouth, and she's got like which I'm not sure. I guess probably the like staples holding some of her wounds closed, and some I don't know, I guess wood glue.
Paper mache.
Yeah, maybe maybe it is. Maybe that is what it is. She's got like a poultice made out of paper mache over some spots where y'all roughed her up. Actually, you know what? What I
Where
should
Foxglove
do.
chewed her way out of her chest cavity.
Oh yeah.
What I should do is make a ment check for her, and the doctor actually succeeded, but only healed her 3, so she's probably looking still pretty worse for the wear.
Alright, V's gonna find that chair from earlier. She's gonna pull it up and sit in it and fold her hands in her lap and say, "Well, we've gotten your invitation. You've called this meeting. What is this about?"
She just glowers at you, and she says, "I requested an advocate. You are no advocate."
No, you sent Sparked to our doorstep. That was the invitation. What is this about?
I don't know what you're talking of. You all attacked me while I was enjoying the company of my friends in my warehouse.
I noisily push a chair like to the cell door, and I jump up and I sit down and I start swinging my legs. And I say, "You know that we're not cops, right? And strictly speaking, nothing we do here ever happened."
I'm going to take us over to the play screen, because it
Yeah.
sounds like there's going to be some dice getting rolled very shortly. Okay. And she says, "If I come to harm while in the company of the Coast Guard, while in their protection, my associates who are not here will take very kindly to that."
I don't think your associates care very much about you, considering it was one of them who led us to you.
I'm going to have her roll sense motive. I know you're telling the truth, but
Yeah.
I need to see whether or not she believes that. She gets a 4. I think she has no idea whether or not you're telling the truth.
Seems to me that you've become a liability. She pushes Foxglove's tail out from her face.
I think here we're gonna need some rolls at this point to see if she's gonna be willing to open up.
So impressed, right? Because I'm like appealing to her gentle nature. 11 intimidate.
11. Okay. Well, as you might recall from the fight, she's not very good at resolve. But she
No,
still
hey.
gets a 17.
Right now,
Yeah.
it's just Dorothy's heart clearly was not in that particular.
No, I'm half thinking about how to negotiate our payment, so. Too many pots spoiling.
And aside to y'all, what if we had the Queen of Murder in our pocket though? What if though?
Okay.
Sounds like you've been
All
spending
right.
some time with
In this,
Dorothy.
in this team huddle, I would also like to bring up the time you guys gave me so much shit
That's true.
about trying to recruit some scientists who killed people.
Who participated in person experimentation and torture. Murder
But
is
teaming
less.
up with okay, yeah, the person that fed them the people to experiment
Yes,
on is
yes.
different. Okay.
And also killed our coworker / friend, maybe.
Okay,
This
that's
is a
true.
thought.
Yeah.
But I do appreciate your seeing every channel.
All right, that's an answered. Wow.
Oh, all I'm saying is I basically don't have any leg to stand on to disagree with you, really.
Yeah, morally speaking, it would be bad.
She says she says I don't think you understand how my associates work. If I am a liability, they'll solve me themselves. If they can.
Why were you providing people to the university?
You're gonna have to make a better argument for her to like open up than just asking the questions. Cause like, you know, she's been in this cell before, right? Like she has
Sure.
been behind the bars. She has paid fines, probably received corporal punishment. She's definitely got a good lawyer who has talked down charges. So she is, you know, she's waiting for things to get, you know, for whatever's going to happen to her to just blow over.
She probably doesn't know that her contacts at the university are in custody and extremely willing to talk. I don't know if that could be used as leverage.
I mean, does Viper make that point?
I don't know that Viper's super into this right now. Every single time she's tried to get information out of people, it always goes very badly. She is more than willing to stand behind V and Dorothy and make a show of tightening up the bandages on her knuckles. So.
Yeah, here's the thing. We wouldn't have found you if your contacts there hadn't led us to you. We already have testimonials and paper trails leading directly back to you. There's simply no putting that cat back in the bag. I want to know why.
Give me an impress check.
Okay. That's a 20.
Nice.
Hell yeah.
All right. She gets a 5.
Ooh.
You can't fight against actors.
What's her reaction? She says, if I ever provided goods to anyone, it was I was being reasonably compensated for my efforts. It was a mutually beneficial arrangement.
So why take a spark for your payment?
This delay is like not just me thinking. She is like she's looking you over, you and Viper both.
Hey.
And
She's looking over you.
Oh.
I want more attention.
and she says, are you aware that the coal stockpile on the east side of town burned down sometime yesterday?
Yeah, more aware than most people in the city right now.
Oh, and why is that?
We're the ones that put the fire out.
Ah. And have you seen the price of burnables in the city this morning?
As a matter of fact, yes.
Really? And what was being sold?
Oh, you know, literally everything. You already know this. I know what you're angling at, too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, people eat off of me, so I don't think that we can talk about how our components mean anything. We're not civilized people aren't going to start killing other creatures for warmth.
Additionally, this is a very pointedly manufactured crisis. Also, this didn't happen before you sent a Spart to our doorstep, who incidentally also can start fires. So, what was the point?
Coal prices are already extremely high, and they're only going to get worse. I have people in the Dirtfolk Guild who have told me that the coal veins are running out. It might not have been this winter, maybe not next, but at the very least the one after, when there would be no more coal. And the three of us would have been some of the available burnable material. Could they burn their furniture? Yes, they could. Probably furniture would go before us. But then what? Their homes? That doesn't work all the time.
Yeah, I'm just saying that rational people outside of you and me don't go directly towards murder.
She kicks the jail bars in front of you just by sticking her leg out, and she says, your flesh isn't on the line, creature. Ours is.
So you thought you'd accelerate the crisis?
If there was fear in the population, the Coast Guard doesn't have enough people to both maintain the blockade and keep order in the city. They'd have to choose one or the other. The blockade is coming down sooner or later, and I wanted it to be before people like us were thrown to the pyre.
So that people, unlike you, can be thrown to the sparked.
Few eggs for the omelet.
Oh, what a martyr.
I'm no martyr. I'm just trying to save my hide.
So why pull him?
The people are already afraid of the giants. They hid in their embassy for years. And the common people know that they worship the storm. It's just a hop, skip, and a jump from that to believing that they're naturally infectious. Just waiting to burst upon the city.
That feels counterintuitive. If you're trying to pull down the barricade as opposed to just sending a riot after the giants, which does nothing to the barricade.
I'm trying. If there was enough fear in the city and enough chaos, the blockade would fall.
Why don't you just leave the blockade?
Because I want out.
Then why don't you just leave?
Because there is no leaving with the
You're-
blockade.
You're one of the top crime bosses of the entire known civilization. You don't have connections? You don't know how to swim? I'm sure wood floats.
We are in the middle of the ocean. There are no islands for hundreds of miles around. Whether or not I float is immaterial to the creatures in the sea.
She has a point. They usually don't like assholes.
I feel like that's a saying in like whale that doesn't really translate.
Yeah, it sounds better in the native tongue. Hmm. Well, that's an unsatisfying answer, but I guess
What, you thought it was personal? That I hated the opera so much that I would spark an actor?
That at least has some drama to it.
Ugh.
It's not unheard of, actually.
somebody left that 1-star Yelp review, and we're still trying to figure out who it
We're
was.
so mad.
Well, and V stands up. If that's everything,
Is it?
well, you called the meeting. You tell me.
She rolls her eyes at you saying that. And she says, I did not bring you to my warehouse.
You certainly did, didn't you?
This again.
You, the leader of murder in this town, you expect to broach a gesture of violence and expect nothing in return? This can't be your first day.
She says, I don't know what violence you speak of. We have simply been discussing any business transactions I might have taken.
Okay, well, see you in hell, and I hope you burn in eternity. And I jump from the chair, and I'm gonna go.
Why use Salazar's name?
It was convenient.
Well, convenient and not especially clever, clearly. And V picks up the chair and leaves.
I'm taking this with me.
I'm gonna start looting the keep. What's a chair worth? This is fancy craft. There must be a coin value for it.
Is it made of wood? I mean, I know market.
Viper, are you going as well? Or are you gonna continue to stare at decency?
There's so many knuckles to crack. Maybe she's not done.
That's true.
I mean, you got the key if you want to let this one out too.
No, I have the key.
I got headed off at the pass on that one.
If I have the finger, does that make me the finger?
That's how it works. Is that where the plot's going? That we're gonna become crime bosses?
Hey, if you want to follow that, whatever. Like I said, once this opening story arc is done, then we'll go in whatever direction that the three of you are interested in pursuing.
All right, okay. I know what Viper's gonna do. I was debating on whether or not she would be this vindictive, but this lady literally made her kill her friend and protege. So Viper is going to break apart that chair and make a small campfire right outside her cell and light it. And then leave.
All right. So
Maybe kick some embers through the bars.
she definitely like pulls her leg back from the bar and tries to scoot. Like she's already got her back pressed up against the back of the cell, and so she can't really get any further away from this fire, but she tries. And so you just leave this small fire burning there in front of her.
Yep.
Okay. So the three of you leave. And where do you go?
I'm gonna go talk to the captain of the guard and introduce my new, totally very well spent feature.
All right. So you go to Vice Command. Well, no longer Vice Commander, now just Commander Hastings, and he is there in his office. Are V and Viper accompanying Dorothy as well, or are you two going to go elsewhere?
I have nowhere else to be.
All right.
I don't think Viper does either, so sure.
Okay. So he's sitting behind his desk, which looks kind of undersized with him sitting behind it because he is such a large gator man. And he says, "So, how did the raid go?"
Quite well. There were no losses on our end, and no one important lost on the other side.
That's excellent to hear.
So you contracted us to figure out who let the spark into the city, and we have shut down a person experimentation ring and brought in one of the 5 major crime heads of the entire city and helped save a good portion of the last standing civilization from a fire. So I thought that it might be time to settle our bill.
Yes, I believe I did promise each of you 100 silver.
Well, you promised us 100 silver to do the first thing. And then you extended our employment. And we haven't really discussed what that's going to look like. What was the bounty on one of the fingers?
On this one in particular. Surely the Lord of Murder has a hefty sum.
Hey, is there an actors guild? Are we union workers?
Are we union?
The Dirt Folk Guild is the only union.
I think we're the Actors Guild.
I mean, that could be a goal for the rest of the
three us
campaign.
here. We're all here.
It's the entire union.
So he says, we don't function on a bounty system. We don't have enough people for that or enough funding. However, I am willing to extend your payment for participating in the raid an additional 50 silver. To be clear, that is 50 silver each. Is that amenable?
V starts to nod and then looks to Dorothy.
Dorothy's contemplating very hard about whether or not to make that haggle roll.
I'll save it. This seems fair, and this does seem generous. And Dorothy's yeah. It's just Dorothy operates mostly like this, well, in part because she needs funding for her research, and also because you guys are such good doers that I think that you would just I don't know if you always watch out for yourselves.
I don't know that Madame V is an especially good doer. I just think she doesn't like to think about money.
Oh, I see.
That kind of artist.
Okay, my mistake. But yes, if the group is satisfied, then I am satisfied.
Okay. All right. What? So he begins. He takes out a piece of paper and he begins writing, essentially a banknote on it. And he says, "If you take this downstairs to the treasury, you'll be able to receive your funds." And hands it over for 450 silver to the three of you and says, "Now, you three have proven very useful to the Coast Guard. Would you be interested in taking a more permanent position within the organization? As you may have noticed, we are slim on staffing."
Adrian's face. I believe that would be something we'd have to take time to consider. Thank you for the opportunity.
I understand. Please know that it remains open for the time being.
I suppose I'll be returning this musket then.
Yes.
Or do I just give this to you, or just
Oh my god, are you giving him your badge and your gun?
yes, I am giving.
He says, that does remind me. Your notes of arms carriage, please.
Fine.
You're the one who brought it up. I feel like
I have to remove my actual arms, but I don't think he's the type to enjoy a good physical comedy bit.
no, not a slapstick gator. It doesn't look like.
Okay, so you hand
I'm sure he had written expiration dates on those anyway. So.
Yeah. But you know, things can get damaged. And anyway, yeah, I'll hand over my badge and gun.
Okay. So yeah, you get those, or he takes those away, and you go down and get your payment from the treasury in the keep's basement, and you get your 450 silver. So each of you take 150 silver.
Woohoo! I can buy my own gun now.
Yeah,
Plus,
we have
I never entered any from the end of the last session, so I don't know how much we're supposed to have.
Yeah, we had several just general coins, and then we had gear to sell. Do you know how much was the general coins, Austin?
I can pull that up. I
Okay,
thought
it
that
was 30, so 60, 210 silver times divided by 3.
70 each.
Great. Shopping montage.
So, before y'all, I'm sure there is stuff that y'all will want to buy. But since that'll be like, is there anything immediate in character that y'all want to do?
I think Gentleman Moose needs veterinary care.
Oh yes, that would be good. I forgot that that he was having a hard time. He is at 16 out of 20 wounds and 0 out of 30 vitality.
Like, it's healed for 5, split evenly between vitality and wounds.
Okay.
And you have to decide where the last extra point goes.
Mr. Moose had a rough day.
Mr. Moose got some fucking work done.
That's true.
Yeah, okay, so he gets tended to. The the keep's physician is definitely like, I've never worked on a moose before, but it can't be that complicated, right?
Perch on horses, surely.
Yes, that's what I mean. It must be somewhat similar.
And you would be surprised where the differences are, but there aren't that many.
Obviously, scale is one of them.
It's mostly in the head region.
I didn't realize that moose were so large. I have only heard of them before, well, seeing Gentleman Moose about town.
Oh my god, that is a movie title.
He wears a monocle in that one. Yeah.
So, question, is Gentleman Moose unusually large, or is that just how big all moose are in this universe? Or is he just a specific variety of moose? And there are normal sized moose, which obviously are still very large, but not quite huge.
I think it's that one. I think there is a species of megafauna moose, uh, and gentleman moose is one of them. But there are also normal sized moose.
I see. Okay. So yes, is there anything else immediate that y'all want to tend to?
Do we have any other obligations? I don't think that we did.
All right then.
I think it's up to our own devices now, which is
Yeah. So, since y'all are going to be wanting to buy stuff, that's presumed that probably will take place over like a couple of days, as you do some shopping and search about for what you seek, and chat amongst yourselves. So I'm just going to give you sort of like the information, like word on the street over the next couple of days, stuff that everyone eventually learns. Don't and if anyone wants to do an investigation roll to try and get more information, they are welcome to.
I have a quick question before we leave the keep. What is going to happen to decency? Like I think I asked the commander that.
Well, if we are able to find sufficient evidence to convict her, it will likely be capital punishment, and for bringing the spark into the city voluntarily and attempting to spread it, no less. I suspect we will have to get creative to discourage others who have been committing such acts and put the fear into the dean and professor so that they do not think to restart their research.
And
They're
if you,
murderers.
and if you don't find enough to convict,
If we cannot find sufficient evidence for that particular crime, hopefully we will be able to find something else to convict decency of, and then mete out suitable punishment for whatever that crime may be.
she certainly has a vast portfolio to choose from. I wish you the best.
Thank you. I unfortunately suspect that our investigators will need your well wishes, as she is an old hand at such acts and knows how to cover her tracks. This over-ambitious project of hers will hopefully be her downfall.
Here's hoping. That's all. Thank you.
All right. So. So I rolled an investigate check for the city guard, and so is there? I'm guessing there's nothing else immediate that y'all wanted to do or talk about before we sort of get into the epilogue of this arc, so to speak.
I don't think so for me, no.
Okay. If anyone does think of something, just feel free to let me know, and we'll make space for that.
Hey, hey, Dorothy. I've been thinking. Do you think they expect me to return this? And I hold up the Drake's claw. That was the finger.
Who's they? You mean the hand?
Yeah.
I think that they would be in debt to you if you return it. However, you would be actively choosing to work with the mob. Not judging, just saying. I,
Just like me.
um, yeah, I think it's yours to do what you will with it. It would probably, it, if you don't think that in itself, is useful to you, then go ahead and trade it for a use. But, you
I
know,
mean, it certainly is, but my concern is more, do you think that they will come for it if it is not returned?
I don't think they would come aggressively for it. I think first they would come pleasantly for it.
Okay. Well, I'm trusting you on that because I like what this does very much.
Okay. Well, if there's any trouble, of course, I will help you with whatever you need to settle up things.
That's that's very kind of you. Thank you, Dorothy. I do feel reassured.
Yeah, so out of character, if you give it back to the hidden hand, you will get a level of heroic renown. As you know, essentially, as Dorothy said, the mob will owe you one, and so you will be a
Cool guy.
yeah. No, not a cool guy, a wise guy.
Ew.
Ah,
Mm,
I see. What
Yeah.
is heroic renown? What is that?
So
Because that sounds like a proper noun to me.
there are three types of renown. There's military, noble, and heroic.
Mhm.
And so they basically represent like how sort of like social influence amongst those three branches. So they provide different benefits. Heroic renown is like the common folk have an idea of who you are, and so you're able to call upon favors amongst them and benefits amongst them. Like you could, probably get like you could probably use your social position to like get free drinks at a bar kind of thing. Like there's a specific list in the rules. I don't know what they are offhand, but
Yeah. Mechanically speaking, in order to spend reputation for favors, you need certain ranks of particular renown tracks.
Okay.
Also, based on your renown, when you go to a new area, the GM gets to make a roll to see if people just like know who you are, and that's fun. It's fun to be a big man and just walk around and people recognize you.
Cool. I will think about that.
I'm surprised that Lady V doesn't already have. I mean, Gentleman Moose is already at 10 heroic renown, so.
so the favors you can ask for are on page 188 and 189, and then there's descriptions of those favors beginning on page 190. So yeah, you can either hold on to the finger or trade it in for mob ties.
Cool.
And like, to be clear, while the hidden hand are known to be the organized crime of the city, it's also very much like there are those who hate them, and then there are those who are like, yeah, they're great. They bring around a turkey for like all the people on the block. Come every harvest festival kind of thing.
They take care of their own.
Yeah, exactly. So, right. So, I did a roll for the investigators of the guard, and they got an 11, which is unfortunate. I mean,
we already knew they're not particularly good at investigating. So.
yeah, that's like they are a coast guard that has been shanghaied into being law enforcement. So you know.
Let's not use that term though.
Yeah, you are 100% correct. And-
Repurposed.
Yeah. They've been repurposed into being city guard. And so they're not the greatest at it.
Do we want to look up how trials are run and run a trial? Because there's rules on how to do trials. Not necessarily for charging out for people, though.
This game is ridiculous.
Yeah, I had forgotten there was rules for trials. I'm completely unprepared.
Well, I'm just a simple doll, but
God, is it in the index? If it is easy to find, we will have a quick look at it. Christine, do you have any idea where it might be?
yep, 320.
320?
Oh my god, there's like crimes for adultery and how many successes you need to pass the trial. Arson, assault, bearing false witness, blasphemy, desecration of a sacred place.
I thought you were going to say how many successes you need to commit adultery.
Oh,
Successfully.
only one.
Okay.
There's like how to bribe the court, and then there's campaign rules if like about the effect how trials can be run. It's yeah.
Yeah, this is a whole thing.
Yep.
You know what? I think that since y'all aren't the ones on trial, like, I could do all the roles and just like I'd have to figure out like stats for the advocates on both sides and like do opposed roles and like I'm not
Well, I
gonna
demand you do all this during your prep time and just give us single sentence news updates.
Well, this is only a couple of days. Maybe the trial takes a long time.
y'all are really interested in how decent. Okay, I'm gonna put this into my notes.
It's still reflect. Yes. We care about what happens to the head of murder.
Yeah. Who has already tried to murder us and who we tried to murder in return.
So now we're like, where do we stand? Are we
Yeah,
dating?
like-
What's going on?
What are we?
What is this?
Okay, so I'm not gonna do it now because it's gonna take some looking and some rules figuring outing. So it's in my notes to do the Dice for Decency's trial. So next week, I guess you will have an update on how Decency's trial went. Or at the very least, I will have all the dice prepared so we can just like do it on screen and see how the trial goes.
Oh boy.
Okay. So we'll see how that trial goes later. But over the next couple of days, you learn that the commander is lifting the blockade.
Why?
You want to do an investigate roll?
Sure. I mean, it doesn't bother me in particular, but that seems
hold
like
on. I got this.
Stand aside.
It's a 12, but it's a 21.
Yeah.
okay.
Okay. So you like, you now have. Actually, you know what? I'm going to give you all one level of military renown. Because
Yay!
because you have ties to the Coast Guard.
No.
It's the gravest insult anyone's ever given. You're a good cop.
No. Well,
Fuck
okay.
you, sir.
Hypothetically, on paper, being a good cop is okay.
I can.
Oh, so
I
what's
can,
our title then?
What is your title?
Where is
Your
this
title
on
is Private Investigators.
Yeah.
Because that's what you were hired to be.
I
True.
want to. I don't want private investigator. I'm going to call myself a junior detective.
Okay.
call myself a gumshoe.
Ah, yeah.
You have to click add to add a type of renown. Okay.
Military renown is really cheap for me because I'm commissioned.
Yeah.
Okay.
You have a history of being in the military somehow.
You have a history of being a cop.
Where's that? Add a track of renown. Okay. Uh, okay.
Yeah. So, Viper, through using your various contacts in the Coast Guard, and just asking around, you are able to learn that essentially decency succeeded. Like, you know, the coal stockpile in the city is gone. People, like, the winter is almost done. It'll be a couple of weeks, and then the harbor will be thawed. And so there should be enough burnables left in the city to make it through this season. But, like, even working year round, the Dirt Folk Guild won't be able to produce enough coal for, like, the city not to implode. You know? There are huge chunks of people, like huge chunks of the population on this island are outside of the wall in the two camps of refugees. Which is to say nothing of those who rioted inside the walls. Right? The commander fears that there would be an uprising, especially since the rumors about Sparked being inside the city don't quite die down. Like, people...
And also, were super true.
Yeah. They never, like, the sparks never pop up in the city, and everyone knows how infectious they are. So there's a lot of people who dismiss it, but those rumors never quite go away.
Well, it's funny you say that because. Wait for it. Okay, services. Not it's not quite. Okay, so there is where is it? There are announcements. Spreads news to local population for 1 day for 3 silver. I'm going to take the reported findings on Sparks and how basically that you can catch it only like if you die of Sparked and spread it to the populace to like reduce the amount of hysteria surrounding Sparked. And I'm gonna get a plucky young lad to shout it on the streets. With like very simply like written out documents that are sourced for people who want that.
Okay.
And that is 3 silver.
All right, so you start spreading your counter rumors.
Can we just say truth? Like, sounds like.
Well, I mean, having some youth shout on the streets. I mean,
I put him in like a scientist lab coat.
I'm not saying that people don't believe you, right? But like, that's not saying that there aren't sparked in the city.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
like, when people are fearful, those kinds of rumors aren't going to die. You know?
No,
Even,
I know.
so
I just feel like in our climate where people are very suspicious of science, I just want a world where we can like say science says this and people aren't being like, but I'm pretty sure Jesus.
The reasonable response to me. Oh, no, okay. Well, that's actually not that bad then.
I'm not saying 100% of the population, but at least how we frame it in like in our conversations surrounding not that I'm like spreading counterintelligence.
I do have a question as to how the sparks work. And maybe this is a question from me too, Dorothy. Like surrounding like this discourse. How long after exposure, like if okay, we fought some sparked.
Hmm.
Say I die about a month from now, do I then become a sparked?
Well, you wouldn't. I think that you're immune, that root walkers are immune to diseases.
We, s- yeah.
But let's say foxglove.
Let's say foxglove, yes.
What does the research say, Austin? Do I hand it off to Viper to investigate?
no, you've got all the research from the professor, who is still hidden away in your basement along with the 2 grad students. You haven't handed them over to the Coast Guard.
We've been busy.
I could have sworn we did that.
I think we just locked them in the basement because we're like, we can't deal with this right
No,
now.
we were like, oh hey, Captain. We've got some people we've been
Right.
holding. You need to come and pick them up, and also probably reimburse us for holding prisoners for you, because your prison fucking sucks.
We fed them.
You did.
Okay. I'm adding a note to the professor's trial as well. Okay.
We never did figure out where the dean got off to either.
Nope.
Dean caught wise. Dean, honestly, that was a smart thing to do.
So yeah, the you find out that the blockade comes down because, there will probably be coal riots next winter, and so the
You
guard.
never told us the question we just asked.
Oh, sorry.
Like, how long is the incubation period? Like, is it like immediate? Like, if you die from sparked, then you get sparked, or like if you fight sparked and then die, do you get sparked? Like, does it lie dormant at all, or does it need to be immediate? Let's put it in. Let's put it in terms that like more understand. Oh, okay.
I understand the question. Just trying to decide. I'm going to say that the research that the professor did was somewhat inconclusive.
It's not even good human experimentation.
It sometimes it's shady and doesn't work well.
Sometimes.
Yeah. Definitely if you are killed by one, then you will transform. And it seems like those who received grievous injury from the sparked, they could be infected for, like, it would lie dormant within them until they died. So like if someone was, injured to the point that they were like going to bleed out, they would still spark. But the line between like how bad does an injury need to be, like if you got into this is I think like not a hypothesis, but a question asked in the professor's research is that if someone got into a fight with Sparked, and because of injuries sustained during that fight, they contracted pneumonia and then died, would they, or those wounds became gangrenous, would they turn Sparked? And her research does not have an answer to that. Like, there is no clear dividing line between how grievous an injury it needs to be to result in a Sparked. Nor does she know exactly how long it would last. Like, if someone was wounded badly enough that, their wound became gangrenous, but then the limb was amputated, and so then they continued living on for a long time, like, would they still turn to Sparked after that? Unclear.
I guess when Viper dies, we'll figure out if, what's going on, because I know she definitely got down into wound damage fighting Pullum.
Yeah, but root walkers don't get diseases.
I'm not immune to
Zombieism?
holy magics, though, or whatever. It's a super bug.
Just keep an eye out for any longhorn beetles, you two. Right, yes, so you find out that the blockade was dropped because there would almost certainly be coal riots next winter. So the commander basically figured that, if people want to go, let them go. Anyone who wants to return, they can be quarantined for an extended period. But this way we'll get rid of, the rebellious ones who want out. It'll thin the population. And you also hear that there is some pressure from Lord Broadwing on this matter as well. That he was leaning his not inconsiderable funds into lifting the blockade for similar concerns, because he doesn't want a revolution.
Generally, the richest person in the world doesn't.
Yeah. So the blockade is lifted, and you'll be able to take advantage of that if you are so inclined. And another thing that you learn over the next little while is that the warehouse that Decency was in, it did not technically belong to her. And so I think you get one day while it's usually V who cooks breakfast, right? If I recall. Yeah. So one day, V, I think that you wake up to come get breakfast, and there is just a letter on the counter with a wax seal of a hand that is missing the middle finger. And inside, you open it up, and there's two pieces of paper. One is a note that says, "Thank you for taking care of our rebellious member. Consider this a reward." And the other thing is essentially a deed to the contents of the warehouse and the ship that Decency had constructed in secret.
Damn.
Whoa.
Brutal.
So, as a reminder, that warehouse is full of sailing supplies.
Huh.
Was this like a bribe to join the family?
It's a thank you.
Well, I put that aside and I continue to make breakfast and I look at it very often.
Yeah. So as soon as that word about the blockade being lifted goes out, there is a renewal of work at the docks. That area has long been underused for the past 9 years. And so people start getting jobs there. A lot of the refugees were sailors and sea folk. And people who, used to have thriving businesses as shipwrights inside the walls but could no longer afford their homes because their livelihoods were made illegal and so were forced outside into the camps. So there is a boom in ship construction and preparation for when the harbor thaws. But aside from anyone who gets a hold of a Coast Guard boat, you'll have the first ship.
Huh.
What kind of boat is it?
I will have to have a look at the fantasy craft rules for boats.
Well, we know it was constructed with a root walker in mind. It's
Yes,
probably pretty big.
it is definitely of an appropriate scale.
Hell yeah.
For some of the party.
Yes, for some of the party.
Can retrofit step ladders.
Yeah, and like little doors, the big doors. Yeah.
It's made of flesh.
What?
Because it's root walker made. It's all
It's just
leather.
It's all leather. The whole ship is leather.
Leather and bones. Gross.
Oh dear.
Yeah, it's a lot of big talk of they're gonna start burning trees. Don't look at my boat, which costs I had to chop down at least 10 solid trees.
Yeah,
Also, BS that she couldn't get out. She has a boat.
yeah, but there's the blockade.
You can find a way around it.
Well, she wasn't the finger of smuggling. She was the finger of murdering.
True.
Yeah.
Oh, no, go ahead.
I think it's a... Is it a galley or is it a frigate? What's the difference? Multi-purpose sailing ship, useful in trade and battle, pinnacle of naval warfare. Okay, it's not a frigate, it's a galley. It's not a ship of the line. All right. Before we continue on with our epilogue, it is about 7:30, so I think we shall take our break. So we will be back shortly. See y'all then.